This video is a direct response to another gamer. You see, he wrote an article on a website that I would like to refute, and I would like to show some of it. You know, let's just get on with it. Open the can, jeez. Considering about half the title of this show is letters MMO, I tend to not talk about those three letters an awful lot. Massive Multiplayer Online. It's what makes these games so great, or what makes them a pain in the ass. Yes, I'm looking at you, EA, who can suck a sewage pipe of fail sauce. So it's with some interest that I read an opinion piece on GameSkinny by R.A. Vaught. His basic premise is that MMOs aren't games, they're open worlds, and he also argues that MMOs should have to require teamwork as a core mechanic, or they just simply fail outright. He cites old school games that were, to quote his article, brutal, punishing events that relentlessly smack down players by being too difficult and unfair. To lay down his whole argument, he's basically saying that MMOs should not have a lot of soloable content in order to create a sense of community amongst the players. Fear leads to bonding is one of his bullet points, and as he puts it, fear of death should lead to a stronger sense of community as we band together to survive. Do you even play MMOs? The reason I say that is not to be cruel. It's because what he's arguing just doesn't hold in modern MMOs. One of the constant complaints that I hear from old school gamers is that the games are too easy, they want them harder, or they want more difficulty. But in all of this, nobody discusses what it takes to make the fight harder. What makes an MMO harder? What, it takes more hits for the monster to go down? Your weapons don't do as much damage? Halfway into the fight you gotta change tactics? 2/3 into the fight, he screams, "Putties, attack!" What? Okay, what this guy is suggesting is that the newbie area has to be so difficult that you have to party up in order to even just walk out the front door. Nope, not buying it. Let's start with the logistics. The assumption here is that at any given moment, I should be able to find a group of people. Okay. As an old school WoW player, let me tell you that organizing a group for any dungeon crawl back in the day was like pulling teeth from a chicken before they had Raid Finder. Now it's more like pulling teeth from a rabid chihuahua, but I digress. This leads me to the swing shift argument. Let's say I work late into the evening, so around 1 in the morning I want to play a game and unwind, so I'm going to log into generic fantasy online, and now I have to wait for a group who might want to let me play with them, who might be doing the same mission set, who might be willing to slow down so I can enjoy the storyline, assuming there's actually anyone even really on at 1 o'clock in the morning, not the same server, in the same area, in the same... You get the idea. It's hard enough to find a group in prime time. Late into the night, it might not be impossible depending on the game. And I'm not even accounting for the troll aspect. You know, some people just gain no end of amusement in dragging people into a fight they can't win just for the lulz, or Lineage 2 style, just kill these people outright. Now, Vaught did reply to my post in which he addressed my concerns. To quote him, "It is no secret there is no shortage of elitist gamers out there who do terrible things to other players, but how is this unlike real life? Just as we have no shortage of thieves, bullies, or jerks out here, there will be no shortage of jerks in there." Alright. I have been bitched out on this very show for daring to invoke reality into an MMO. Granted, I was talking physics, but the principle's the same. And even then, I don't buy into his argument, because in the real world, if you act like a jackass, there is punishment. You steal someone's stuff, they catch you and put you in jail. Pretty cut and dry, but in the virtual world, nothing. There's no punishment. And you can report somebody all day for trolling. You know what you get? You get a condescending voice and email saying, "Oh, that's too bad that happened. Would you like a cookie to make the bad feelings go away?" He also did respond to my other long-running argument of the catch-22 of raids. To quickly explain my argument, let's say I want to get into raids. Well, join a raiding guild. How do you join a raiding guild? Well, you have to have the raiding gear. Well, how do I get the gear? You get into raids. How do I get into raids? Join a raiding guild. And circle, circle, circle. His response was that it's an issue of MMOs being gear-driven, but I think there's more to it than that. What Vaught is arguing is that MMOs should force players to be sociable and to be team players. You know what? If he gets to invoke reality, so do I. Let's talk paintball. Damn it. I am not doing a second take on that. Ugh. One of the main sales points of the game of Paintball is that it's a team game, and to that end, I'll be the first to admit lone wolves get their tails handed to them a good chunk of the time, but that said, most players don't play as a team. They're out there for their own individual glory, or to just put it bluntly, the game has become who can rack up the highest kill count. And the paintball industry is focused on marketing to that individual demographic. Well, that and a skilled enough player can still play the team goal game in mind and do his own thing, and there's also the logistics of running a 5-man team that's enough to drive you crazy. That's another video channel entirely. If you've ever played online FPSs, you've seen this mentality. I'm going to use World of Tanks here because the principle is basically the same. The game rewards individual glory. You get more points for dishing out individual damage and not dying, and not for the team victory. Sacrificing yourself for the greater good only results in being verbally abused by your teammates and paying a higher repair bill at the end of the game. Even in sword and board MMOs, raid rewards are a group reward for one person, which means that you're going to be working together for 30 to 60 minutes so that one person can get that cool armor piece. And your teammates often leave the instance right after they get what they wanted in the first place. Translation: the team is one of pure convenience and nothing more. You're gambling that you're going to get a higher percentile roll than the rest of your squad. Players don't care about their teammates longer than the instance, and you're probably never going to see them again. This does not create a community. But what it does create is unsettling. And it has nothing to do with gear. Case in point, I was live streaming an 8-man raid in DCUO. I had entered it midway when half the party left on the first boss wipe. When we reached the end boss, we wiped again on the first try. A wipe, for the new guys. Wiping means that basically it's a wipeout. Everybody dies. It's like wiping a slate clean and starting over again. Okay, move on. The first wipe was kind of expected. Not all of us had been there before and we didn't know the fight mechanics. The second wipe is when things went all kind of wonky. Half the party just left. This was the end boss, the final fight, and rather than stick it out, it was seen as more productive to take your gear and go home. This was not a gear issue. We all had the minimum gear needed to succeed. It was almost what I'd consider an elitist attitude. The only thing missing was the rally cry of "Fail group" before they left the instance. Now it took about 20 minutes or so, but we finally had enough people to try again, and our third attempt wiped as well. Not surprising, we didn't know half the party and their individual tactics or what skills they brought to the table. Fortunately, everybody stuck it out, and on our fourth attempt, we got it. Now that same night, I also jumped into a 4-player instance as one of the viewers on my live stream. Then this happened.
You're serious?
Oh, come on! We're not even 3 steps into the instance, and you're... Our replacement lasted about halfway into the instance, and we even shorthanded a boss rather than wait for a 4th guy.
Enough. I must find the others. There are bigger plans.
Oh my god.
Whoa. Barely made it.
We actually did it.
Now another guy left after a single wipe on the final boss.
Can't believe that guy would go all the way and then quit.
We went through 4 replacements before we finished the mission.
Well, that went as well as could be expected now, didn't it?
And I will contend that this was not a gear issue because we had more than sufficient gear to finish the mission. Now, this was glory hounding. This was selfishness. This was anything but community building. And unfortunately, this is the face of gaming that we, the players, seem to want. When you look at modern games, they share one common thread. Mainly, you're the hero.
Ramirez, use your smoke grenade. Ramirez, get to the roof and check out the supply drop.
Ramirez, use the remote control predator missile. Ramirez, the convoy is just to the south of Thunderdome. Get your ass over here. Move!
Ramirez, use your laser designator to call in artillery on those vehicles. Ramirez, get that briefcase.
You can pretty much do everything. We buy a game and we expect our character to be a badass right out of the box. Let's face it, Kratos would not have been half as cool if you had to level him up with a group of other people for several hours. We want to be the guy. We don't have to run or rely on somebody else to do things for us. Which brings me to the community argument. This argument falls flat when you hit a result-driven society. Well, can you do the job to my personal expectations? No. Well, we're going to kick you out and replace you. You are expendable. This makes you a cog in the machine, not a hero. Enough people feel like this in the real world. Why would you pay $15 a month to feel like one in the virtual worlds? This is not community building. This is being a convenient means to someone else's end. My overall point here is that you cannot force people to be a community. You can force them to work together, but that's not going to be a community. As long as individual effort is more important than the team effort, you cannot have a community. If a game ever manages to make a mechanic where every individual can truly help a larger, tangible, and reachable goal, then we've got something, but until then, not gonna happen. Let me hit on one more topic before we call this one a show. A lot of people say, well, if you're running into this many problems playing an MMO, why don't you just go in the world with a bunch of friends? At that point, I'm saying, well, why aren't you just playing a couch multiplayer game, getting everybody in the same room and just playing that way? What's the point of playing an MMO if you're not going to interact with new people? Alright, like, I realize that I've kind of hit a lot of topics in this show and very briefly hit these topics. I'm really going to go in depth in these in the coming weeks. The purpose of this show is to try to get dialogue rolling, get people thinking, get people talking about it. That's the whole purpose of this one. Although, to be honest, I still want to know what makes a game more challenging. What, do I got to stand on my head while I'm playing it? What?